Hey everybody, waitingfornextyear.com podcast, coming to you live from a vehicle deep within the heart of Cleveland, Ohio. We are talking Cleveland Browns, but not the same way you're used to talking about Cleveland Browns. I'm with Aaron Seacrest, OK Pants, and we're going to talk about rebranding the Browns.
Craig, thank you for this moment, this location, undetermined, clandestine, on the periphery, the seedy underbelly of Cleveland.
My favorite thing is when I was buying a coffee, so we're giving people hints, and you said, you want to do it in the car? Right?
You want to do it here or in the car?
And then you were like, yeah, that sounded bad. The barista just kind of laughed. Are we allowed to call them baristas if they're not working at Starbucks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I believe that's a universal term now.
All right.
But yes, I'm here. I figure this. I love all Clevelanders, Browns fans. I love y'all. But I've had to hear you call in and hem and haw and drunkenly argue about how you could fix the on-field product of the Browns. And I'll let you all cook, but now you get to give me my time. And on the piggyback of the hashtag Sell the Browns initiative that started right here on WFNY, I am dovetailing the hashtag Rebrand the Browns movement. We're getting it started right here on the fringe edges of Cleveland, America. I've been feeling this way for a long time, Craig, because I just feel like the only consistent thing about this team anymore is they want to blow it up every 2 or 3 years, and they do, on an executive level, on-field level, coaching level. So what is the hang-up about just saying, why don't we just start this whole friggin' thing over again? Let's just rename the team, blow the colors up, resign everything to the history books, and just start anew.
Well, and it's weird because for any of us who are old enough to remember Bernie Kosar, and I'll simplify it by just saying Bernie Kosar, this team has always felt like a fraudulent version of, or a wannabe version, or one that was trying to earn those colors and that reputation, and they never have over 20 years.
I've analogized this team as the NFL version of Weekend at Bernie's since 1999, where you're dragging the bones of something that used to be kind of prestigious, and you've just been trying to make it something it's not. And I get tradition. I understand how important it is to professional sports. But if you go back even to the days we remember, because we're old, of Bernie and Marty Schottenheimer and whatnot, they never even saw the field of a Super Bowl. You know, you have one championship to cling to that is generations removed from anything anybody really got to see. And I get it. I'm an outlier. I'm a bit of a nihilist when it comes to sports, but I don't understand what the hang-up is with just blowing this thing up in earnest on a fundamental level.
Well, and even for those who are sentimental, I'm not prone to sentimentality, I don't think. But even those who are have to admit, like, this is so far removed from the thing that they're sentimental about.
Sure.
That, like, at a certain point, the toothpaste isn't going to go back in the tube.
I won't even put this all on Haslam. I'll put it on every regime. The 3 owners, technically, since 99, they have really perverted what this team means to people to the point that we just only have the comedy of making fun of it and sort of the autopsy that's every Sunday at Brown Stadium or wherever the Browns play. What we celebrate anymore has nothing to do with winning or success on the field. And it hasn't for 20 years.
No, and the current rebrand is such a failure that they're already rumored to be they're going to do New Jerseys again.
I think my countdown clock, the day they had that joke of an unveiling, my 5-year clock started that night, because you have to wait 5 years to kit your team. Right. Per league rules. And you're
an artist, a graphic designer, somebody who's got an eye for these kinds of things. Like, let's go back in time a little bit. Like, obviously the reaction wasn't good. But
to go back to, the guys that coach their kids' CYO teams that call in every week that think they can fix the Browns on-field product. I could fix the off-field product. I could fix the way this looks. It's not like, that's a fact. I'm a graphic artist. It's what I've done for 15 years. So it would be a massive project, but it's also a dream project of mine to say, put the TNT to the name of this thing, and let's just build a new brand for Cleveland football.
So it has to be rebranded, though? You couldn't fix the existing within the framework?
Because I believe, the whole problem with why this has been like lost season 6 of football since 99 is you keep trying to sort of attach it to the past, and the past is now in Baltimore and has 2 Vince Lombardi trophies. If you want to have a binary argument about it, that's where I come out on it. Like, I feel like this team left in 95 and it never came back.
And I don't take any, I know you don't take any joy in that, and I don't take any joy in it either, but I think it's absolutely true. The idea that I fought the idea that the team actually moved to Baltimore. I said, well, we kept the colors and that's the fraudulent team. No, turns out the fraudulent team is the one that came back in 99, despite, every like moral standing that I had.
And by the way, I've never appreciated this team on an aesthetic level. If we could have a quick artistic discussion. I know I have designer friends and artist friends that are as talented as me.
It's the sports version of guilty Catholicism.
It looks like Thanksgiving dinner.
You were born Catholic.
Yeah,
we were born with the Browns colors. We don't love them.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Everyone, it's a charming thing to be the only team in the NFL without a logo on your helmet, and it's also kind of ironic and funny that the team name is the Browns, but the main team color is orange. I get it, but the only reason, literally in 2017, the only sentimental attachment or loyalty I have for this team is because my father watches every single game, every minute till the clock is all zeros. That's it.
Yeah,
that's what we have. So were it not for him, I would have given up on this all a long time ago.
Yeah, and by the way, I didn't mean to pick on the Catholics,
No.
It could be Jewish people, it could be, whatever.
As a Jewish person, trust me, the guilt thing is quite, it dovetails nicely into that as well. So I understand. But going back to the point, it confuses me that if we had a Super Bowl appearance, I could understand this allegiance and loyalty to the brand of the Cleveland Browns. You have one championship win that was over 50 years ago, and you have nothing but innovation and losing and ineptitude on every level since then. And by the way, this is so far beyond blaming any one player. This is not a player issue. I know you've talked about this ad nauseum, but it's a complete executive level on them. It's just the onus is on the people that have tried to outsmart everyone with what they're trying to put on the field.
It was actually really liberating this year for me to get to the point. And by the way, I think like the Browns might have to be sold, but it has zero to do with my campaign or anything else. Like, I get that. So
no, you should take credit for that. You should take credit for that. That's the world we live in. Is when LeBron came back to Cleveland, the one guy that sort of guessed and shot his shot probably didn't know shit about it, but he gets to take credit for it.
Was it Chris Broussard? No,
I don't remember. It was someone that was tweeting for days, and I think he just,
I'm going to die on this hill.
Yeah, he picked it.
Or I'm going to live on this hill.
He picked it. It's a 50-50 proposition, and he guessed right. So you should totally, I think, at the 0-16 parade, just show up wearing like a mink coat, maybe like an orange mink coat, and just
some Macho Man Randy Savage sunglasses.
Yeah, just flex on them, because that's just the world we live in now, Craig.
That's so funny. But I was going to say I feel like it is liberating from an argument standpoint, to not care, to realize that the problem is so high up and it starts so high that, like, we could have a conversation about Sashi Brown. We can have a conversation about Hugh Jackson, but it's a waste of time.
We could have a conversation about Jimmy Haslam, and you can't even totally pin this all on him.
No.
Because how many teams in the NFL have had 3 different owners in the past 20 years? I think only one. And it's just these problems that get piled on other problems that are inherited. And I get it. People, you don't score a touchdown, you don't win a game, you don't even get a first down by renaming or recoloring this team or repackaging it. But I feel like that sets a foundation to build to in earnest really build a new thing that's actually successful on top of it.
When it's really a special last two owners, the inherited owner who was reluctant and didn't even really want to own the team, and then the shoot from the hip crazy man who was implanted here via Pittsburgh by the NFL leadership.
And you know what? I'll give credit where credit's due, and also because this is technically a public pitch to work with him, he's at least made it exciting theater with the decisions he's made, and you can't blame him. He's tried a bunch of different ways to configure this thing to be successful. And I don't think maliciously he's come up short. I just believe these problems only just stack themselves on other problems that have been here.
So you haven't given up on the idea that this could actually happen?
Wait, what?
Rebranding the Browns.
No, it's my dream, Craig. Here's a quick aside, and it's not a promotion for my own company. I haven't chased around or approached a new client in years. When I get new business, it comes to me. That's the way this whole operation is built. This is the one client that I have taken to Twitter to probably, to a fault, rudely, accost them into working with me and entertain this idea. I have fought with other Browns fans about this idea. It's the only time you'll ever hear me argue about sports with anybody, because I don't really understand the finer points of this sport or any sport on a micro or macro level. I just understand how things work visually, and this doesn't. And it hasn't, to me, since I was 6 years old.
Well, and the branding is so fractured. I mean, between the Browns, the lack of a logo, the dog pound, the elf, there are so many divergent non-brands working not together.
Well, in this day and age, every team has, a main logo, and then you have just a bunch of supporting graphic elements and logos, but it looks terrible. It all looks... Who wants an elf as a mascot in the NFL?
My kids like it, but
how old are your kids?
7 and 5.
Yeah, okay. No offense to your kids.
And I think the 7-year-old is starting to think it's lame.
Yeah, I want something cool, and people are all for this traditionalism. I go, the Seahawks made one of their colors neon green. Do you think they're sad they said goodbye to the silver and blue? I don't think so.
No.
At some point, the world is a very different place. And if you go back far enough on every team's timeline in every sport, save for a handful of teams, they've completely renamed things for one reason or another. And I think going potentially 1-31 or whatever over 2 seasons and potentially selling the team is a great reason to sort of take the TNT to something and just start over. It's not like it's leaving town. It's still going to be ours.
Yeah. Well, and I haven't totally given up. I really think that that this team might end up selling. I was telling you before we went live that a government witness in the trial said, quote, Jimmy Haslam, quote, loved it, the rebate scheme where they weren't actually giving the rebates that they were supposed to be giving to clients. Also known as fraud, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, all that's still going on.
Yeah.
And if I'm a billionaire, which I'm not even, I don't think I'm a thousandaire.
100-aire.
And you buy something for $1.1 billion and then you completely just, let's say it's a car. You buy a $1.1 billion car and every weekend you smash it into the wall. You let your kids take keys to the side of the car. And then someone says a few years later, you could probably get like 1.5, 1.6 billion for this beater. What do you say? Who says no to that? I mean, I have no data to back it up. This team, when it sells, and I believe it will, is going to sell for more money than it was bought for. Are we correct about that?
Oh yeah, I think it'll sell for $2 bills. I think the NFL teams go for sale so infrequently that somebody will go, well, the Clippers were worth $2 billion, and they were the second team in the NBA in a major market. This is an NFL franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the thing, and I can't relate to wealth on that level, but I just believe
nobody can.
Yeah, the appeal of these teams is not that you can afford to buy them. It's that only 31 other people in the world own this thing.
Yes.
With that said, I mean, only one of these teams is going to get to say they get to work with OK Pants, and that's that's priceless. Let's not get into sticker shock. Let's not get into how much. By the way, it's very affordable to work with me, pro sports franchises, if you're listening. So,
well, this is part of my other gimmick right now, where I'm offering to be the NFL commissioner for simply $1 million a year. Mm-hmm. I know I could do as good.
You think you could stretch that out? You can make that work?
I know I could do as well or better than Roger Goodell. And instead of paying $40 million for the right, I'll take those bullets for $1 million a year. Mm-hmm. $1 million. That's all I need. Do you know how many Twitter followers I would have by the end of my 2-year run making $1 million? Like, there's no reason why anybody needs to make $40 million in that gig if you're entrepreneurial in any way, shape, or form. And
Trump's America, and then I'm not even trying to get into politics, and we won't. But this is the day and age we live in. Nothing about pro sports makes sense. There's nothing fair. There's nothing just about the business of pro sports, except when you finally get on the field or the court. That's it. I just want something cool to look at, and I want to feel like for once in my life compelled and like I just would see like a Cleveland football team, whatever it's called, shirt and go, man, I would really wear that. And then anytime I just see someone wearing a Browns jersey, I go, do you really like that? I go, if you didn't know what that was, do you really like that? Like, that's what I want to ask everybody.
Yeah, because it's like, I remember even when I was a kid in 8th grade, and I've probably told this on the podcast before, but it was the heyday of starter jackets. And everybody bought that kind of stuff in the mall. You'd save up your $110, $120.
Go get the Chicago Bulls or the Oakland Raiders parka.
For me, it was a black jacket with a Bills logo because it was black and it had the red and the blue. It looked awesome.
And we're talking when you were, 8th grade?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're in 8th grade, black and royal blue is the sickest color combo until you grow up and realize it's pretty nonsensical. But that's why the Orlando Magic were the shit in the 90s.
But that blue and the red and the black jersey, black jacket, I loved it. Nobody else had it because that was part of 8th grade too. You had to have one that nobody else had. Raiders were covered, socks were covered.
You had to be. I was not a tough kid, so I wasn't probably not wearing the Raiders gear.
Yeah.
You kind of had to be hard to rock Raider stuff, even though it's the coolest looking shit in the world.
But you're right. Like, anybody who wears Browns gear, it's referencing something that used to be cool or something that they wish was cool. But nobody actually, like, nobody's buying generic Under Armour gear in those colors.
No. And listen, I practice stand-up comedy. I've done stand-up comedy. I've participated in stand-up comedy. I have wrung every ounce of laughter and humor I can out of how bad football in Cleveland is. And I just am at a turning point in my life where I think the culture and the psychology of the football fan in Cleveland deserves to celebrate winning and hope for that. I mean, let's say right now, what is the Cleveland Browns fans' hope for next season? Let's assume they go 0-16, 4-12 with Peyton Manning being the president of the team. I mean,
and Kirk Cousins as the quarterback.
You're giving up both your first round picks for Kirk Cousins. Like, that's pretty much confirmed.
No. He's a free agent, so they give up $100 million for Kirk Cousins.
Okay. You can't even look forward to the draft anymore because half these kids, if they can stay in school, are looking at the top of the draft board and saying, I'm going to party for another year and let's just see what it looks like in 2019. I don't want to go to the Barley House,
Well, and even if you do draft him, something that was pointed out on Sports Talk Radio this morning is like Deshaun Kaiser, David Njoku, both play for the Browns. They should have been playing in college football games last weekend in the Notre Dame versus Miami game.
Sure.
Even the Browns that they're drafting at the top of the first round are guys who should be one more year in college.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we've been at for years. We're sitting in my car in a very clandestine location in Cleveland talking about renaming the team. When is the last time you really had an earnest discussion about on-field, the actual game itself?
Oh, yeah. No.
On your podcast?
No, and if we do, it's about, well, do you think they could win one game?
Yeah.
Do you think they could stop themselves from going winless? I mean, we're going on a season and a half of this kind of a thing. And we want to let's run a poll. Is it more Sashi Brown's fault or Hugh Jackson's fault?
Yeah, that's where
Yes.
we've been at. And
Yes.
and you can't even fire these guys. Like that's where we'll have this. Well, can you fire one? Can you fire both? If you bring somebody else in, are they going to want to hire their own guys? And it's just this groundhog. I know this is beaten to death analogy, but it's just the Groundhog Day thing every 2 or 3 seasons here. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if renaming the team and recoloring it and slapping a logo on the helmet fixes anything. I never guarantee. Whenever I talk to my clients of when I rebrand my clients, I never make a guarantee that it amounts to anything other than it lays a foundation for you to build. Isn't that what this team's been trying to do for 20 years, over and over again?
And honestly, if I had the $2 billion, okay, and I was buying the Browns and I was taking over and I was redoing the whole thing, I don't know that I'd go for the full-on rename, but I would redo everything. I would change every single human in that building. I would bulldoze that building. I would move us to another location in the greater Cleveland area.
Where you'd have to go to the polar opposite east side location or whatever to Berea.
I'd start fresh. I'd buy Lakeland College and make that my new
Call
home,
it Cleveland Browns Community College.
which would be hysterical.
Sure.
And I would go.
But but not to interrupt. That's my point about the Browns. You tag the word Browns to anything, it becomes instant comedy. That is why you must rename this team. When you have...
They're dragging down Lakeland.
Here's to my point, Craig. I was watching like at ESPN, I think it was a halftime show, and an announcer used the term Browns as a verb, and didn't even need to explain the context. Everyone just knew what it meant. We don't think there's a need to rename the fucking team when you have become a verb for sucking. You're a joke. You've been a joke, and it's not going to change. That is the very definition of a need to, quote unquote, pivot, as my friends in the tech industry would say.
The Browns are going to pivot to video.
Yeah, they're firing all their writers and moving to quote, content creation. I just think you and I kind of disagree with you where if you buy this team, you gotta pull the roots up, drop some new seeds, and grow a fucking whole new garden or whatever weird horticultural analogy befits you. It's never gonna be good. I've given up. I feel bad. My dad's 61 years old, and I don't like starting to think about he's never even going to see a playoff appearance with this team again.
My dad's turned 70 this year. I think we decided that the tickets were finally in his name for the first time in like 81 or 82. And this is the first year we haven't had seats when we could have had seats since 81 or 82. And then even on top of that, when my oldest son was born, I gave the Browns 6 years. I said, look, I know you haven't been relevant, but I started watching football in 1985 when I was 6 years old. Like, for real, that's the first Super Bowl I remember.
That was around the time I became conscious of the Browns.
And I'm like, so please, I'm giving you 6 years. Let's make it happen. And that, my kid's going to turn 8 in April. And they're having the 2 worst seasons in the history of NFL football.
By the way the NFL is geared, you gave them twice as long as they should have needed, because any other team, the majority of the teams in 3 seasons turn it around. That's the way the league's designed. This is what, year 19?
Yeah.
19 years.
18, 19, something like that, yeah.
I have lost my virginity in that time, Craig. That is how long we have gone with terrible football.
I have 2 kids, so I'm gonna say I as well have lost my virginity.
I became a man in the days in the time Dwayne Rudd was chucking his helmet.
I have more kids than the Browns have playoff games.
Yeah. Oh. You know what? When I get my meeting with Mr. Haslam, and I will, I'm going to literally state those. I'm going to have you come in, and I'm going to have you just say that with a blank look on your face. Maybe we'll rub some dirt on your face to make it look like Dust Bowl, just sort of browbeaten by it. But that is the most damning thing I've ever heard. You could have 4 kids and it would still be embarrassing.
Yeah. So what do you? I know I'm kind of dragging you off to a topic that actually doesn't make any sense.
I could talk about this all day long. Go for it.
So what do you make of the toxic relationship that some segment of the Browns fans have with the media, where they almost like blame the media like for covering this disaster as if they're catalyzing the disaster as opposed to just reporting on it?
It's because it's the Browns' fault. It's a losing. It reflects our culture and our media as a whole. When shit is just hitting the fan routinely, just bad vibes, like what do the fans have left to, like the fans can't even fist fight each other. The Browns used to be cool enough. You go to Municipal Stadium and fist, just fight dudes, get blackout drunk and fight. And now it's a different time, and I understand that fighting and violence is bad, but they just got to take to Twitter and piss on Mary Kay Cabot.
Well, and so she is inextricably tied to the Browns, and people kind of hate the Browns. So
Her
by proxy,
and
they
Tony
hate her and Grossi.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would love, after Tony Grossi retires, which I hope isn't for a long time, I would love to get a couple drinks in him and have him give you just an honest assessment of what it was like having to write for this, cover this regime of the Browns. Because I'm sure it's a blessing and he's grateful to be able to cover sports for a living, but think about, it's gotta suck.
Yeah,
it's gotta suck,
Well, and he got caught up in it too, where he accidentally tweeted or
he lost a job.
That moment of honesty where he called him an irrelevant billionaire. He called Randy Lerner.
He said called him a pathetic, tragic figure guy or something. I remember, and he lost his job for it over a tweet.
Yes.
And was it the best look for him? No, but I just don't think anybody.
Was he wrong? That's the one thing that is funny to me.
I don't even want to get into whether he was wrong or right, because I feel like,
well, he was wrong to do it, but
it wasn't. It was. I don't think anybody, for a tweet that's not racist or sexist or trans homophobic, should cost you your career, because that guy he was 15, 20 years in, and he lost his whole gig because of one tweet.
Well, and they suspended him for a minute. They took him off Browns coverage. I don't think they technically fired him, but they basically pushed him out.
I think it was a sad indicative of a guy from his generation figuring out just how important social media was in that age, and it was a hard lesson learned. But again, I don't think, we're a culture that, and I get it. I'm sure Randy made a call, and that was that for him. But
yeah, the irrelevant billionaire.
There's a culture that really wants everyone to lose their jobs the minute they say something that's a little edgy or unagreeable. A lot of times, so I just think that's grossy.
No, I think that is too.
No, but
some people deserve to lose their gigs and their livelihood based on what they do.
Clearly, we've learned that, and I don't want to get into that, but there's certainly.
Well, I'd be happy to get into it. I love talking about that kind of stuff.
I don't. I'd rather keep it in the scope of the misery of the Browns. But no, the fans, this is what happens when you innovate in ineptitude and losing and failure. Is people have nothing to grab onto. If the Browns were going to the playoffs every other 1 or 2 seasons, you wouldn't have people, shitting on Emmett Golden and going after people and waiting for 2 hours to drunkenly rant at people.
Yeah, when Daryl Ryder updates his stats about how worthless the Browns have been, it's not Daryl Ryder's fault.
He's reporting. What else is there to report on? I mean, you name another NFL market where the majority of the fans can name multiple members of the scouting department. That's what we have to pay attention to.
Well, and it's like if you're somebody who covers Wall Street and you're covering the Twitter stock, nobody expects you to sugarcoat things. Like, sports is the only one where people think the secret works, and that if the media was just happier and sunnier, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that it's not the media's fault that Kenny Britt stinks.
I just think, and it's a culture that's now hyper tuned to. I must have a visceral reaction to this one way or the other before I gather any data on it. And really what you're reacting to is just data. Most of these guys, especially the old school guys, are just objectively giving you an account of what happened. That's what traditionally journalism is. Right. And it's just evolved into this into this weird world where you don't have to be a journalist to be in the media, and you can just talk about whatever you want to talk about, and it doesn't really even have to be rooted in fact. So when you are somebody that presents just facts, and you get these just, sports people are emotional and illogical, and this is coming from a punk rock guy that's a stand-up comedian as well. It's the only place, like, it's bizarre. It really is.
Yeah, well, and the world changed because we no longer need a gamer to find out what happened. We've got highlights, we've got Twitter and everything else, and so everybody's looking to fill their jobs in different ways now. Let's kind of sum this up. Mm-hmm. You don't have a brand in mind. You just want to start fresh.
There was, I do have free time, but the amount of free time I have would not be nearly enough to meaningfully put together a package of what I think the new Cleveland football team would be. It's just a massive undertaking. It's not something I would want to half-ass, because I can guarantee you this: if and when I do it, the reaction is going to be brutal. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of angry people, and that's also the whole other component we haven't talked about is, regardless of whether it's good or not, people are going to be mad and hate it. And
of course.
I remember a few years ago when the Jaguars redid their logo, I gave my riff on it, and it was, my mentions looked like Chernobyl for a day. It was a crash course in the temperamentality, if that's even a word, of the sports fan when it comes to aesthetics. So,
wait, you didn't like it, or you liked it?
I thought it was an odd decision. Like, I think that it was a fine update. It just was like a weird update to a logo that didn't need it. It was my take on it. So I sort of gave a completely different concept altogether with it, and it did not go over well, Craig. But to my point, I think as long as the word Cleveland is in the name of the team, if you are winning at some point, people will get behind it.
I think so too.
When Wahoo, your grandkids finally see Wahoo get eliminated from the Indians set, if they're winning, people aren't going to care. People get over stuff. And I will not be proven wrong on my stance, by the way. Do you think the Browns are going to be winning anytime soon?
No.
Okay, so my official position is, as long as the Cleveland Browns are the Cleveland Browns, they're never going to succeed. And by success, I mean playoff appearances.
Like, the best case scenario in my mind for a playoff appearance would be not 2018, but 2019. And the chances in my mind are like less than 5%, less than 3%.
Yeah, probably. Look, anything is possible, and I'm no
it's not possible next year. It's not possible next year.
No.
Don't start talking to me about 2018. I think they could win 4 games.
That's where we're at. So, to me, if a team is winning and the logo on the helmet is this coffee cup or whatever, people will go and buy $80 coffee cup jerseys.
I love the Cleveland coffee cups. They're my favorite team.
We're the color of coffee as it is. It's stupid. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's dumb. Can I give my honest opinion? The Browns' aesthetics fucking suck. They're stupid. They look like Thanksgiving dinner. Okay? And the new jerseys are a microscopic upgrade from what we had, but there's still nothing I would want to go buy. That's it.
Yes. The only way I'd want to buy them, the only way I have bought them, is because they're associated with that Sunday. Like, mm-hmm. I would never, Steelers fans wear their jerseys to church and whatever else because they kind of look cool.
They look great. By the way, Browns fans, the Steelers fucking rule. Their logo, it's great. They only have it on one side of the helmet. That's cool. Their entire aesthetic is great. You know also why? They have, 5 Super Bowls? 6?
Yeah.
6?
And I do hate it.
Yeah,
I know why I hate it.
It's not their fault. They're better than us.
It's not because the colors in the logo actually stink. It's because I hate what it represents.
That they're better than us in every regardable way.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
And guess what else? The Ravens color scheme and their logo and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's way better. It's like
I don't
heavy
like the
metal
shield.
colors.
I don't like the shield.
There's a million gripes I have with the Ravens set, but black and purple is a great combo. You're not even the only team in your division that has orange as a color.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. So,
and if you're going to have orange and black is far superior to orange and brown.
Fucking yeah, it is, dude. It looks. I mean,
Just from a pure like color spectrum, artistic palette.
I honestly think
standpoint.
the Bengals was like, okay, I'm out of. And Paul Brown has founded the Bengals too, correct?
Yep.
He's like, all right, we're done with Cleveland. Can I finally put something on the helmet? Can we put like some tiger stripes on the helmet? I think that looks cool. That looks cool. And then it looks like something. If I had kids, I'd want to buy them jerseys and buy them like toy helmets and stuff. I don't have any kids that I know of, but I don't want to buy them fucking Brown stuff.
A friend of mine even has. He's a Bengals fan. He has Cincinnati Bengals reusable shopping bags, and those even look cool.
Is it just tiger stripes
They're
all over
black with the helmet.
They have the tiger head is a great illustration.
But would you want a brown reusable shopping bag with an orange helmet on it? No.
Yeah, I have tons of disposable shopping bags that are brown already. Ugh. Come on. It's a new day in Cleveland, like it just is. I honestly, if my gut reaction would be, if I was the owner of the Browns, if OK Pants bought the Browns, I would just go to the Lake Erie Monsters and said, "You're no longer the Lake Erie Monsters. My football team's the Lake Erie Monsters." And then I would rebrand it slightly and take those colors. That's cool.
I love the logo for the Monsters. And all
I
that
have,
kind of
again, as a designer, I don't ever look at something and immediately fall in love with it. I of course, have to dissect it in seconds, but the name is great. That name is great. And I know everyone's loves Cleveland. I love it too. I've been here my whole life, but the name Lake Erie Monsters is great.
It is.
It's great.
It is. All right. Well, I think we did it.
We did do it. If you want to yell at me about it, take it to Twitter. OK Pants. I'll be around. I have thick skin, I think.
Yeah, a lot of wimpy people say don't at me. OK Pants says at me.
At the fuck out of me. I don't care.
OK Pants.
I was raised as a fat kid and I'm divorced. I have no feelings. Go ahead. Let's talk.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. It's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.